Okay, so someone was asking about how to do rosettes, and I figured because hers are overgrown and we need to trim her up a bit, I can go ahead and do that and kind of show. Now, granted, her pattern's already set, but I can at least kind of talk through like how we place and why we place where we do. So this is pre-bath, but I figure I will roughen the cut and take off all the extra hair because we have a lot here. And I will do that sometimes when I have a lot of hair to take off because less hair to wash and dry. So when we're figuring out a rosettes, one thing you want to think about is the length of your dog's body divided into thirds. So like from here to here, right? And then you want the jacket to be about 2/3 of the body. And then the rosette section from here to here to be about 1/3 of the body. And that is how I get the line right here in the middle. Now, I don't set that first, but I want to just kind of show you what we're working with, or like the objective, before we get to that. So when I start my rosettes, let me zoom in here, and also, like I mentioned in another video, she has a little sore here. It's being treated, it's clearing up, in case anybody is wondering what that is. But when we get started, what I like to do is put the dog's tail up and kind of figure out how the dog is going to hold their tail when they're in the ring. And let's zoom up, let's zoom out a little. There we go. You want to have approximately 2-finger width between the base of this tail and the start of your rosette. Okay, and now that is a ballpark estimation. You have to also customize it to your dog. If your dog's maybe really short in the loin, or a little longer, you might need to adjust and have a little more room, a little less room. But you don't want it to, like, let's say your dog was very long. If you're like, well, my dog's really long, I'm gonna leave a lot of room, like, and you shave like all of this, and then you have like a huge space, you're just kind of showing off that your dog is long. So you don't want to do that either, but a little more space might be okay. The whole thing is like you're going for balance, so start with that 2, and then kind of, you know, look at your dog overall and figure out, does that fit on my dog? Does that make everything else look in balance, or does it need to be a tiny bit more, tiny bit less? But the key thing is you need space between the back of the rosette and your tail set. And then the other thing is, when we trim this tail, you want space between the top of the rosette and the bottom of this tail. So we also have to trim this tail up and the top of this rosette down. So just kind of showing how we're setting the back of this. Now what I do is I will shave the base of my tail, I'll shave, and I'll figure out where that 2-finger is, right? And then I shave to that point. I will then shave straight down. I don't curve yet, because I don't know where that curve is going to be. And if I just guess and go, oh, well, we're gonna curve here, and I curve, and I could make it way too small. So I kind of go slow, especially like the first time you're setting it on a dog, or like it's the first time on this specific dog. Maybe you've done it on other dogs a bunch of times, but each dog's a little different. So I kind of figure out where that back line is going to be, and then I will just clip her straight down like this, right? Take off all the leg hair, and clean all this out that I know I don't need, right? Then what I like to do is go in here and do another kind of straight line right here. And I'm very generous because I don't want to take off too much, and I haven't decided yet. So I will just kind of do this. And essentially I'm creating a square or rectangle potentially of the rosette as I'm starting. So it's a straight line here, and then I shave here. And I don't know this line yet, right? So I kind of will stop shaving somewhere around here. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side, mirror it on the other side. And I don't go down the center yet, but I'm just kind of clearing the back of it. So I'm getting the idea of where the back of this rosette is going to be. And then you start kind of looking at that dog, right? And then, so now you know where the back of the rosette is. That's when you can start kind of shaping it. And as you start shaping it, I use curves and small curves at that, okay? I think these are about 6.5. And that's when you kind of start just putting the scissors on and just kind of starting to kind of figure out where that curve is. And as you do that, if it's very forgiving if you make a cut and you're like, oh, I actually didn't want to go that short or that small. Versus when you take a clipper to it, it's very drastic. So I like to just kind of, I follow that around, and the natural curve on these shears also really helps to figure out where I'm going to start curving here. And I don't have that line yet, right? But I can kind of figure out where that's going to come in. Now I don't go all the way down, but I just kind of am getting that shape. And then I start kind of beveling it. And then I come from the other side to get this, right? And I'm now trying to figure out the back of it, right? Let's see, can you see? Let's see if I can zoom in a little. There we go. So now you can see, like, there's hair down here that I'm not shaving off yet, because I'm working the shape in. And then I kind of come up here, and I'm starting to kind of think, yeah, I think that's where I want it to be. You gotta stay still, baby girl. Kind of whittle at it, right? And so now this hair is short here because I'm realizing, yeah, I want to take that off. And I still have all the hair here because I cut it short. But it's kind of showing me like this. Now I know where I want to shave, right? So I'm getting the idea of that's going to be my shave line. So once you kind of figure that out, then you can actually go back in with your shaver, your clipper. And I like to go and flip it around backwards and shave out. I think it's cleaner, especially I love this Divinity blade. I know I talk about it all the time, but it really does get such a beautiful, clean edge that way. And also by like setting it on the line and going out, you're not going to accidentally go too far in and shave beyond what you're looking to shave. So now we're starting to get the back of that rosette. Just kind of clean that up. Right, and then it's at this point where, like, let's say I didn't actually have my line yet on her, right? And let's zoom back out. So at that point where you're like, okay, that's the back, and I'm starting to see that shape come in, you kind of put that tail up, and that's when you really can start to guess or estimate where you think that best end of the jacket line is going to be. That'll divide the dog in like 2/3 here, 1/3 here. And so that's the point where I will start to figure that out. And I like my long straights for that. And you want to go perfectly straight. You don't want to be angled. You don't want none of this. You want a straight line. Go straight up. And I like to go over so that I can match it up on the other side. Now, she already has a line here, so I kind of already know where it is. But that's how I would do it. And like even when cleaning this up, that's how I'm doing it. Because I want a nice sharp line. And then once I have that, I also then like to then turn it this way. So I'm not angling it that way. I'm still keeping it straight, but I'm pivoting it so that I can bevel this to get a clean shave line, and so that I don't have hair falling over my shave line. So now we kind of have that line, but now I have all this hair here, right? So now we're gonna go back to our curves. Stay, baby. And let me adjust this because the camera is exactly where I want to stand for this. Stay, baby. All right, so now we're starting to get that rounded shape. As I'm doing this, I'm realizing I want to cut in a little more, lift it a little more. And it's almost like whittling or sculpting, really. Alright, so now I'm going to go back in with the blade. I'm going to shave. Here, I'm going to pull that skin forward a bit so I can get a clean line. Pull the skin taut so you don't catch it. Okay. Because this is a rough one, I'm not going to worry about the jacket. I really just want to show how I shape those rosettes. I might go over her jacket later and take off any bulk I really don't need before I fade her, but at least for the purpose of this video, I'm going to just really show this. And after her bath, they will get scissored again. So really just like I said, trying to get that excess off. because they were so overgrown, and because someone asked about a video, so why not? But because this is not a like recently washed and dried coat, this is not a perfect groom. Like as soon as I wash and dry it, it's going to need to be all touched up. So if you're doing this yourself, I recommend bathing first. But at least for the purpose of the demonstration, it'll be good enough. Now, let me put you at the back. If you look down the center, what I like to do, let's see if y'all can see what I'm doing. So what I do is, shoes, obviously we have some shave lines existing, but let's say you had hair everywhere. What I would say is try to part the hair and find the spine. Then, with some straights, cut down on that spine. Then what I do is I will slightly angle it this way and then slightly angle it the other way. Still all trying to be like right along that spine, because that is going to help create that like a very small line for you to work off of. And I'll sit there for like 2 or 3 minutes, just slightly going straight, just cutting little by little by little by little. And you're going to kind of create that little path down the center. Because if you just, again, went right in there and just started trying to shave a line, it might be crooked, it might be too wide, it might be too narrow. So that's what I recommend. That's how I do it on a dog that doesn't have rosettes already shaved. And then like even now with her, we already have a bit of a pattern that's kind of grown in. So what I'm going to do is start at the spine and ever so slightly just do these tiny little, like few millimeters off of the spine. So like start at the spine and pull towards me just a tiny bit, and then I'll do it in the opposite direction so that we're even. But I find it is so easy to make this too wide, and when I first started doing Continentals, that was like the biggest mistake I was making. Was I was in like an inch or like an inch and a half, and it looks bad. It just looks really wonky. And you like the space itself doesn't have to be huge, because you're gonna be beveling the hair. So the hair on the edge is already gonna be super short. So you don't need a huge gap. So what I do is I kind of make that tiny little, gosh, I don't know, maybe it's like half an inch. 1 finger width. Let's put it that way. It's about 1 finger width right along the spine. And let me see if I can zoom in so y'all can get a different view of it. Okay, so that's kind of what I do right in between. Now it's not done, but that is how I like rough it in. Then I go back to scissoring everything, and then after I scissor, I go in and I clean up the line. But this is kind of how I start it. All right, and I have here, so it's joined here and it's slightly curved. And then down here, I've slightly curved this here. And let's go back onto the base. Now another thing, when you're doing rosettes, you want to make sure that it's not too big over here and that you have enough height here. I feel like it's easy to make them too big out on the side, and then it looks a little goofy. And so I like them tighter down here and actually have like the hair on it longer up here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of comb this out. And then I'm going to scissor it a bit more for that shape. I'm gonna scissor this curve a little more because I'm actually gonna wanna, like I said, clean up that line. Now I'm going to clean up this side of the rosette line. So now that's our rosette. Around. Looking at it from the top, you can see how I cleaned up the line along this side, and I would do this side and then clean up the line on this side, this rosette, after I scissor, and basically repeat the process on that side. But here we have one rosette on this side. I'm gonna put it here all day and pick it apart, but more or less. All right, there we go. Good job, Mia. You did so good.